I want to show you where the ceasefire has been called. Okay, Kyiv is the main city where it's been called. Sumy is the other city where all Indians are currently located. About 700 Indians are said to be in Sumy. That's the second city where the ceasefire has been called. In less than an hour from now, it will happen. Kharkiv is the most bombed city of Ukraine. That's where the other that's the other city where the ceasefire has been called. So Kyiv is here. You've got Sumy where lots of Indians are. Kharkiv is the most bombed city. As you can see, it's very, very close. Sumy and Kharkiv are very close to the Russian border. And Mariupol is in the eastern area. Now, that's a place where India Today had been reporting from. And it's also a city that's very close to the Azov Sea. So 4 cities where a ceasefire has been called. Okay, I'm going to try and get back Geeta Mohan, Gaurav Sawant, Rajesh Pawar, as well as Polami Saha. We'll also get our political reporters in. Let's get our PMO reporter on the phone quickly, because I want to get details of this. I want to understand. Our viewers are owed the opportunity to understand how it works. What is the chronology of this big decision by Russia? Is it a coincidence that Sumy has also been declared for a ceasefire? How long is it going to take for me to get a reporter? I'd like to get a quick countdown clock. When am I getting my reporter? Can my producers tell me? My viewers want to know when I'm getting a reporter. I need a reporter in the next 30 seconds because our viewers are impatient. They want to know right now what's going on. So I want that reporter quickly. Let's get someone in the newsroom standing to give us a quick update. Akshita, join us live. Quick update on what this means as far as the ceasefire is concerned on the ground. I want to consistently remind our viewers. Where's Akshita? Get Akshita live quickly. Let's get Akshita live. I want her in 15 seconds. You've got pictures on your screen showing you the missile attacks. You've got pictures on your screen showing you the combat activity that's happening on the ground. But a ceasefire has still been called. What does that actually mean? What does that actually mean on the ground? Are people still in danger? Because Ukraine, remember, has been accusing Russia of not faithfully following the ceasefire declaration. In Mariupol, for instance, 2 days ago, when Russia had called a limited ceasefire, Ukraine said it had very little faith that this ceasefire would actually be implemented, it would be followed. Ukraine made claims that Russia was still firing on civilians despite the ceasefire. Is that something that's going to happen right now as well? Will civilians, and especially Indian civilians, become pawns in the kind of claim war between Russia and Ukraine? It remains to be seen. Where's my reporter? Do I have my reporter? Where's my reporter? I need my reporter quickly. I want my reporter from Ukraine and from Delhi. I want to know what the Prime Minister's office has to say about this ceasefire. Let's get a quick update in. Get our reporters on the phone. Patch someone on the phone quickly. I want a reporter on the phone quickly. Let's get our reporters in on this. It's big. Parents are wanting to know what exactly this means. Parents will be wanting to know whether this ceasefire, allows them to breathe a sigh of relief and basically allows them to breathe a little easier for the first time in 12 days that they've been worried. They've had their hearts in their mouths. They've been wondering whether they're going to be able to see their kids get to safety as quickly as possible. And now is that first opportunity, the first opportunity that we here are reporting to you. I don't want Maria right now. I want our reporters. I want our reporters right now. Quickly. Let's get Maria Paisarenko from Kyiv in on this. Maria, big ceasefire being announced from 12:30 p.m. India time. In just a minute, in less than an hour from now, that ceasefire is going to start. What are you hearing in Kyiv, Sumy, Kharkiv and Mariupol?
Actually, this is the same ceasefire which was announced yesterday, also during the day, but Russia broke it just an hour after it was announced. So, for example, this was the idea in Mariupol to evacuate people because there were no connection, no water supplies, no heat in Mariupol for 3 days. And yesterday, evacuation was announced for Mariupol citizens. And just an hour after announcement, Russia started shelling and bombing of Mariupol, and the so-called Green Corridor, which was opened during this ceasefire, was immediately closed and evacuation failed. So no new, hopes for these ceasefires, which are to take place today. And as we see, Russia violates all the ceasefire agreements with Ukrainian side. So really no hopes that this ceasefire would be better or more successful, and it will allow actually for people to leave, to be evacuated. And as we have seen yesterday, so the news for today are that Russia did really announce the new bombing and shelling on the objects which belong to the military production complex. So actually Russia officially, the Ministry of Defense of Russia officially announced the possible new shellings of these objects all over Ukraine. So this means military factories, the factories or plants which manufacture military supplies, military equipment. So this is what officially the Ministry of Defense of Russia did announce. And another thing that we have heard from Russian side is that they won't stop unless Ukraine takes the demands of Russia and surrenders. And this won't actually happen because the Ukrainian side, Ukrainian army and Ukrainian president did clearly show that Ukraine is determined to fight for independence and to fight for our territories. So these claims made yesterday are really worrying for today. And for example, right now, just minutes ago from this moment, we've heard new air alarm sirens here in Kyiv, and this strike, the sound of bombs and shelling are really much louder than the days before. And 3 days before, Kyiv was kind of in a silence, more or less. There were not so loud, strikes, and they were really very rare compared to what we've had in the first days of war. But now, from today, from yesterday's night, we are already having more shelling, more bombing, and I'm again in city center, and I can hear this sound. So really worrying tendency of these strikes to grow bigger and bigger. And also, I want to mention you one other breaking news of this night. So Mykolaiv, which is in the south, which is to the south from Kyiv, was shelled with cruise missiles by Russia this night, and the aftermath of this shelling is also terrible. Russians targeted civilian quarters, and the images of civilian houses, high-rise buildings being on fire are now surfacing on the internet, and this is what we see after heavy shelling of civil objects in Mykolaiv city, which is to the south of Kyiv. So as we see it for now, the shelling and bombings are still really happening all over Ukraine, and the fight over Kyiv is yet to be in the coming days.
Okay, the fight for Kyiv is going to happen in the coming days. The ceasefire that's been announced today by President Putin applies also to Kyiv. So that's that's interesting. In the next 1 hour, 1 hour and 6 minutes is when that ceasefire kicks in. Maria, I'll come back to you in just a moment. I want to bring in Akshita quickly in on this while we wait for Geeta Mohan and Gaurav Sawant, to join us on this as well. Akshita. Big development as far as India is concerned. It couldn't be bigger than this for a ceasefire to be announced, coincidentally in the 4 cities which actually has Indian nationals and Indian students, especially Sumy and Kharkiv. I don't think anybody is going to be blamed for seeing an Indian diplomatic hand in getting this done.
Absolutely, Shiv, especially because, we just broke a couple of minutes ago about how Prime Minister Modi is going to be speaking to both the Ukraine president and the Russian president. So there have been efforts on that front, which perhaps has resulted in right now the news break that we're putting out. I just want to show you the 4 cities that you just mentioned here, Shiv, where they are in fact, Ukraine. So you've got, in fact, 2 very important ones, Kharkiv and Sumy. These 2 have the maximum Indian nationals currently stranded. Some reports suggest that there are about 700 Indian students who are currently in Sumy, and they've been struggling to get out. The reason for that is this is happening completely on the eastern side of Ukraine. For them to actually make it to a Poland or a Romania is very, very difficult because they have to then traverse all the way through Ukraine and then end up on that side in a war-torn situation, in a conflict situation, virtually impossible. So the reason the ceasefire assumes significance is because it gives an opportunity for these students then to be pulled out by the MEA. They've been arranging buses in several parts of Ukraine over the weekend as well, which you've been talking about, Shiv, over Saturday and Sunday. The other aspect of this is that India has been talking constantly to Russia about a humanitarian corridor, about allowing students from Sumy, from Kharkiv, to move to Russia and then travel down to India. It's obviously faster, more reasonable, considering whole of Ukraine right now is facing a conflict. The other two cities is Mariupol. The other, again, there are Indian students, many reports of Indian students stuck there, and also the capital city of Kyiv, where right now you see curfews being imposed, no movement whatsoever, which is why it's been impossible for several people also to come in. On the outskirts of Kyiv, there are some students, we're being told, who are there, and that's where the maximum fighting right now is happening. So 4 cities, Shiv, let me just highlight that for you again. Kyiv, the capital, Sumy, Kharkiv, as well as Mariupol. And these 4 cities have, as you mentioned, a lot of Indian nationals who are still stranded. You know, our evacuation operations, Operation Ganga, has been going on very smoothly, but it's been a huge concern that there are still some who are stuck inside Ukraine, who India has been struggling to reach out to. 2 points that we need to watch out for. Prime Minister Modi's conversation with first the Ukraine President Zelensky and second with the Russian President Putin, which will happen in a few hours from now.
Okay, that big call is going to happen a few hours from now. Akshita, thanks for getting us that very, very important update, bringing Gaurav Sawant also in on this huge news update today. Gaurav, ceasefire being called in 4 cities, including Kyiv, where you are right now. Take us through how it's going to play out. How is this ceasefire going to play out? Kyiv, Mariupol, Kharkiv and Sumy, all cities where there are Indian nationals at this point of time, especially Sumy, where we understand that hundreds of Indian students are. How is this going to work, Gaurav?
Shiv, huge relief, this Russian announcement, and it is anticipated, it is hoped that this would result in one, Ukraine also agreeing to it, then ICRC, the International Committee of the Red Cross, getting into action, and they would go in with resources, which is food and medicines and supplies, and come out with non-combatants and civilians who want to come out of the battle area. As far as the Indian embassy is concerned, Shiv, we're in touch with officials who say they've been able to arrange some buses to bring these students out. Now they're also arranging some trucks. The aim is as quickly as possible. The Indian community is also trying to chip in. We are told as quickly as possible, get these 700 plus children, and we're in touch with some of them. We were in touch with some of them till late last night, and they were told that they were informed there may be a positive development. Remain ready the moment you get a green light, and this green light will be given by the Indian embassy once everything has been worked out. Rush to the areas, pre-decided areas, of course on their own, to assembly points, get into buses. While this ceasefire remains in place, those buses will move out. Both options open. Drive about 5 hours to Kyiv, or drive about an hour plus to the Belgorod border. Whatever is said to be safer, according to officials on ground, and these are Ukrainian officials and the Russian ceasefire, but the ICRC is coordinating this. These buses will very prominently, their numbers, everything is marked that these are carrying Indian students or foreign nationals or civilians and non-combatants. The ICRC vehicles will also be there. That's the way the attempt is being made. This is as far as particularly Sumy is concerned, and Kharkiv, because Kharkiv town children have all vacated. In Kharkiv region, there were some who could not come out to Peshuchin and some of the other Babayev and other villages which were seen as designated safe spots out of harm's way. So now these people have to make their way to the safer areas as soon as that green light is given, get into buses and come out of harm's way, Shiv.
Geeta Mohan, our Foreign Affairs editor, is also with us live. Not only is she reporting from the war zone, she's also in touch with the Indian Foreign Office, and all the diplomatic pressures that are being piled on Russia at this point of time from different quarters. Geeta, explain how this happened, because India does have a very influential direct line with Russia. How much of an Indian hand do you see in this ceasefire happening? Because this is happening, and it has been called by Russia in specific cities where there are Indians.
Well, that's right, Shiv. A lot of it has to do with the engagement between the Indian side and Moscow. And not just that, we're looking at highest level conversations. Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaking to Putin, and he intends to do that again. He's also going to speak with Zelensky. So these are very important conversations because these humanitarian corridors cannot really take place unless and until both sides agree. The Ukrainian side would be happy to have a humanitarian corridor because they have their own people stuck in these war-torn cities as well. But for India, it is going to be very, very significant to have this corridor so that our students who are stranded in Sumy and other regions of Ukraine are brought to safety and then taken home, Shiv. So significant conversations that have taken place between Moscow and New Delhi and between Kyiv and New Delhi.